Now, the bottom line is that programs can't help workers if businesses can't or won't actually get the support. Business loans through BDC were announced 41 days ago, and just last week the terms and conditions were announced for the large employer financing program. So do either of you know a single company that has accessed those programs?
With respect to the BDC loans, no, I'm not aware of.
The answer is, at this point in time, no.
These liquidity measures have the right intent. However, they are not accessible to those companies that need it.
It's certainly been many weeks, and we have still had a number of, I know of at least 30 companies that are trying to access those programs and unable yet to get access.
We are finding new depths of desperation daily. However, the federal government waited until April 14th to announce anything industry specific, waited until 2 weeks ago to release inactive well funding, and we still wait for a liquidity backstop. The only response from the liquidity prong of the federal government's April 14th policy détente remains an auto-generated email from the BDC. This is not good enough. People are suffering as a result of this inaction.
Businesses need two things only: credit or liquidity and revenue. We need real support now with easily accessible liquidity.
We will lose significant jobs across this country, not just in your area or in areas where other development is occurring, but in the many jobs that rely on the energy business on a go-forward basis if those programs cannot be accessed.
Companies don't go bankrupt, they run out of cash.
I have yet to witness a plan for oil and gas from this government.
We're also in hourly contact with the energy sector to think about how we can bridge the time by providing some sort of appropriate credit opportunities for them. And that is work that is going on right now. I don't have the final answer on the exact hour that will be delivered, but I'm not talking about weeks, I'm talking about hours, potentially days.
Minister, it's been 2 weeks or more since the promise of relief for the Canadian energy sector. When can the hardworking men and women expect an industry-specific relief measure, and more importantly, possibly, what can we expect, and more importantly, when?
There's a number of measures that we've already moved forward on that are providing important support for the energy sectors. Clearly, the wage subsidy that we're talking about today is going to be of huge support. Additionally, we're looking at measures of credit support for businesses in across sectors, but importantly in the energy sector, where we know people have been particularly impacted. And we're nearing the completion of those discussions with the banking sector on how we can guarantee those funds appropriately. So I expect that will be something we'll be able to talk about in the relatively near future.
We're also working with BDC and EDC to expand credit support for at-risk medium-sized energy companies so they can maintain operations and keep their employees.
At the same time, we are working with BDC and EDC to strengthen credit support for medium-sized energy companies.
And liquidity, and the liquidity package that we announced was I think, well received by many of the people that I'd been talking to for weeks beforehand. CAP saying to me that the top three of their top five priorities was liquidity, liquidity, and liquidity, and the same from other parts of the industry as well, including labor. I mean, labor made the point that if companies aren't there to protect the jobs, then workers don't have jobs to come back to.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. More than a month ago, the finance minister said help for the oil and gas sector was coming in, quote, hours or days. Canadian companies have been forced to cut about $9 billion in planned spending since the beginning of March, while active rigs dropped from 214 to 24.
and up to 50% of workers employed by drillers have been laid off. Thousands more have lost their jobs. On April 17th, the government announced loans between $15 and $60 million. The Natural Resources Minister said that day the most urgent priority for energy operators is, quote, liquidity, liquidity, liquidity. But last Friday, April 24th, the BDC said details on how companies can apply are, quote, weeks away. On what exact date can energy producers and service companies apply?
We'll be working with the Department of Finance and with BDC to make sure that those liquidity measures are rolled out as quickly as possible.
Mr. Chair, 48 days after the finance minister promised liquidity loans to oil producers and service companies, there's still no applications open for these loans. Can the Honorable Minister of Natural Resources tell us when the Liberals will act on their promise?
The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy that we were able to announce some liquidity measures for large corporations today in the oil and gas sector. This will provide them the liquidity that they needed, and this is also the liquidity that they asked for. It was on April 17th that we started liquidity measures for small and medium-sized businesses in the oil and gas industry.